What's up? What's up? We're back. It's Wednesday. I'm coming in extra hot today. Couple reasons. Just had a fly swatter situation in the apartment. Which, how dare that fly try to come in to my place? If it's outside, I don't kill bugs if I don't need to if they're outside, unless they're on my person. And then they get attacked. But I set up these nice lights. We're sprucing the place up. It looks good. They change colors. They apparently work with the music, but I haven't figured that out yet. One step at a time. And that fly tries to come in here? At me? No. It went down hard. And then it was time. We had to go live. Exciting stuff. Very exciting stuff. Let me make sure we're not lagging a little bit here. All right. Perfect. Dropping a couple frames, but it should clear up, hopefully. A lot of stuff happened today. So I'm wearing the Superman shirt. I just went Superman beast mode on the fly, as you know, which was a big moment. And then I was trying to think of who the best Supermen in sports are. And obviously it's Shaq. I mean, the answer is always Shaq. Forever it's Shaq. There's really no question about that. But then I was thinking about Dwight Howard, and I like Dwight Howard. Problem is, he got owned by Shaq constantly. The only cool thing Dwight Howard did was the dunk with the Superman thing on the 12-foot rim, and the Kryptonite Nate Robinson thing. It was awesome. But he should have just paid homage to Shaq in that moment, instead of trying to do whatever he did and like fight with him. I don't know what the heck that was about. And he just got dominated every time they played one-on-one, so that's hilarious. And then there's Cam Newton, who never asked for the Superman nickname, but the celebration was really cool. It's kind of just a fact. I thought we were going to have a bunch of top time to jump into random topics today. It actually ended up, we got some interesting stuff going on. And I want to jump right into it. We got pick recaps. We'll get to that. We hit yesterday. Again. Good stuff. So we'll talk that through. But more importantly, just broke Jorge Masvidal out of the fight with Leon Edwards at UFC 269. That stinks. And I guess we could just cover it now because there's not a lot to look up about it. It's a bummer. He apparently has an undisclosed injury, and there's not a whole lot you can do about that. It must be pretty bad. He's fought injured before. I think he said he was banged up coming into that short notice fight with Khabib. And all these guys and girls fight way more injured than you think. So something must be going on that's pretty bad that he can't necessarily handle. And I don't know what that could be, but I do know that this could lead to something pretty cool. Because Masvidal, as cool as he is, has already probably peaked. I don't want to count him out. He's a really exciting fighter. But that moment with the knee to Askren's face and then the follow-up just demolishing Nate Diaz in the BMF belt fight. And that shouldn't have been stopped, but he was going to win the fight either way. And then they never even brought back the BMF thing because they're like, this is just Masvidal's thing and we're done with it, I guess. The Rock puts the belt on. That's where he peaked, right? And so I'm more on board with a Chimaev Edwards fight than I am a Masvidal Edwards fight because we talked about it in one of the previous videos, and it's really just incredible that Chimaev is jumping this high, but he has to. He's smashed everyone. And so because of that, I think that we really need this fight to happen with Chimaev in there. it's so much hype. Dana would be leaving so much money on the table. Bilal Muhammad is the other guy that's thinking about getting in there. No disrespect to him, but Edwards versus Chimaev is a clear path to the winner gets the title fight. What's not to like? Chimaev says he's ready. He says he's been calling up every single day to try to figure out what who he can fight. He's just vying for a fight. It's all he wants. And this is the guy. This is the proof. And if Edwards got rocked by Diaz at the end of that fight and couldn't put Diaz away, Chimaev, could he be a favorite in that fight? I don't know, but it'll be interesting. So we'll see what happens there. I want to talk about Dalvin Cook. Got in some legal hot water, but it's very confusing. I want to talk about the Jokic suspension. I want to talk about Tanya Harding reborn in a PSG uniform. That's weird. Hell of a story. We still need to figure that one out. The meat of the stream and my personal favorite part will be that college basketball is back. I watched a bunch of the games. I took a lot of notes. We'll talk about that. I want to touch on the college football playoff rankings if we have time, although there's not too much to say about that. And then we'll finish, of course, with the Mush pick of the day. Let's go back to yesterday's Mush pick of the day for now. And let's see what we can bring up here as far as box scores go. All right. So, yesterday, if you recall, if you watched on YouTube or Twitch or wherever, MikeTheMush on both, we had the Bucks money line and we had Kansas basketball money line. They did both hit. The Bucks were down a lot early. They were not doing well. And it was odd because they have a lot of guys out, but the Sixers have nobody. Nobody. You figure if Middleton and Lopez are out on the Bucks and Embiid, Simmons, and Harris are out on the Sixers, that's a pretty hefty swing toward the Sixers, especially when you realize that Giannis is still the best player and they still have him. It's pretty much a no-brainer. Plus, they do have more depth than you think. That did come through. Grayson Allen came through at the end of this one, but they were down so much early. It was the Tyrese Maxey show. I mean, he had 17 points in the first quarter, finished with 31. He looks good. Last year, him and Emmanuel Quickley got both drafted from the same Kentucky team in the same year, and people were like, oh, Maxey's the guy. And then last year when Maxey didn't play as much because Simmons was playing point guard, it was all about Quickley was the better pick, and they screwed up. They took the wrong Kentucky guard. I never bought any of that. I think Maxey's the real deal, and I don't think they should trade him in any kind of package, even if they're getting rid of Simmons. So I thought he looked awesome. Drew Holiday just dominating in the post. I love that. It's the way I play. I'm the size of a guard, but I love to play in the post, and you don't see it ever. And he confuses guards. They don't know how to defend down there. He didn't play great. He went 4 for 14, but just that idea. He had a really poor game, actually. They should have won. But sometimes he'll go down there and get an easy look, and you're like, oh, why can't he just do that every time? Paul Reed locks up Giannis. Paul Reed, I mean, you look at the box score, you're like, okay, 3 steals, 2 blocks, and he guarded Giannis the whole time he was in. DePaul, baby, second-round pick, and you get this guy that can lock up Giannis like that. Say what you want about how Giannis played in the first half, but Paul Reed was unbelievable. Giannis was 4 for 11 on field goals when guarded by Reed with about 6 minutes left in the game. And that's when the graphic pops up on the screen. And that's when it turned around immediately. They took Reed out of the game, first of all, so Giannis got rolling. Then you get the graphic coming up, clear curse, and Giannis just goes beast mode, going to the rim, rolling to the rim, alley-oops. He took some weird pull-up jumpers that he didn't make, but he was keeping the defense honest. Yeah, it was just funny. Like, you see the graphic, and you're like, oh, he is struggling, and then they just cruise towards the end. Drummond just eating glass out here. 20 rebounds, dominated a team without a center. And this is kind of what I want to talk about. Giannis had 16 rebounds, right? But Bobby Portis starts at center. Giannis is the center of this team when Brook Lopez isn't there. And in crunch time last year in the finals, Giannis was the center anyway. It didn't matter. So what I kind of want to know is, why doesn't Giannis just go toe-to-toe with Drummond? And this box score kind of makes it seem like he does. He didn't. Drummond grabbed every rebound down low. So The couple of answers I could come up with are you don't want to risk injury in an early season game, I guess. That's really the only one. Because he's battling with Drummond, who's bigger than he is and is a tough rebounder in general and has a mean streak a little bit. And he's a tough guy. So I guess you don't want him to do that 82 times in a season. Usually Brook Lopez can handle some of that. He can't right now. And you'd rather let Bobby Portis do it and just get dominated. But when you're losing to the Sixers and you were 4-6 coming into this game and people are worried about your team, obviously they're not that worried. Because if Giannis can outplay Ayton at center, he can outplay Drummond at center. And so they're just not ready to do that right now for whatever reason. So it just goes to show they're not that they're punting. They won the game. But they're also not showing their whole hand. They're playing some vanilla stuff. And it's a little weird, I think. They won anyway. You got to keep him healthy. I get it. It's just, it's odd to see, like, you look at that 4-6 record going into last night, and you're like, well, what does it mean? They're not playing for real anyway. They're just cruising. They're just trying to get to the playoffs so they can do the thing that they actually want to do. So you got to be careful not to put too much stock into some of this stuff. While it is important, and it's great that they won anyway, you just figure, like, when it means something, they win this game by 40. So, it's November. But the big thing to take is that they're not bothered by the bad start. If they lose this game, which they clearly were ready to do, without forcing Giannis down there, then, maybe in March it looks different. But Giannis did do much of the scoring down the stretch anyway, I believe. Fourth quarter. Like, offensively, he was totally fine. Giannis scores here. Giannis assists to Grayson Allen in the corner. Grayson Allen's been great for them. Giannis free throws. Grayson Allen has been a really nice ad for them, especially with Middleton out. He can do a Middleton impression. That's not that terrible. I think he scored a lot yesterday. Yeah, 25. Yeah, 5 for 9 from 3. Big. And then Kansas was the second leg. I said it yesterday. This one seemed so easy. Why is it a 3.5-point spread with the number 3 ranked team against an unranked team on a neutral court? It just doesn't make any bit of sense. I didn't get it. You're never going to get that again throughout the whole year. This is purely because Michigan State is Michigan State. And they have some good players. Don't get me wrong. Like, they kept the game close in the first half, kind of. They were down 7 at halftime, but it was a little closer than that for a while. But Abaji looked amazing. They just hit a lot of shots in timely fashion. They only shot 35% from 3. It's funny. When you watch this college game, and we'll talk more about it in the Duke game, because I really want to break that down. But I wanted to start with the picks first, which we hit. Both sides hit. Pay up. It's weird that when you're watching, you don't notice that the NBA game has more emphasis on the 3 by a lot than the college game. Now, that seems obvious, but the college 3 is so much shorter that you would think they would have caught up by now and just started barraging 3s. The question I have is, does the shorter line actually allow the defense to play more compact and thus still be able to get out to that line while playing compact? Whereas in the NBA, you have to space so far. You would think that moving the 3-point line outwards would deter people from shooting it. But in reality, it makes the defense move further. And because of that, I think you just are inevitably going to have more open shots. And when you're at that skill level, it doesn't really matter that 2-foot difference or whatever it is. So I'm not saying move the NBA line in. Of course, the college line is going to go out to match, and we'll see what happens with that. But I think if the college line does go out, you're still going to see really good shooters have more space. And it might have a bigger gap between the good shooters and the bad shooters. But I'm constantly wondering when college players are going to realize how close that line is and start bombing them. And it hasn't seemed to happen over the past couple of years. They shoot a lot of 3s, don't get me wrong. But nothing like the NBA, and maybe it has something to do with that defensive thing. So yeah, the Mush picks win. Also, we talked about Cassius Marsh yesterday. Bears game. The refs steal a game from the Bears. It's brutal. Truly brutal. And we talked all about it, so go back onto the YouTube page if you want to hear about it. But I tweeted about it, or tagged him on Instagram, MikeTheMush Sports on Twitter and Instagram. And he said maybe in the offseason he's going to come onto the podcast and do that. So we'll either hopefully have him on here or maybe on the Link podcast, at the Link_podcast, audio only podcast. It's not as much sports, but Cassius Marsh is an interesting cat. And I haven't decided how we want to do that or if it's even possible. But I just thought it was cool that he was even willing to reach out and reply. So, you don't always get that. Let's move on to the next topic here. This is a wild one. I'm not going to do too long on this because nobody knows any details. But all I know is Dalvin Cook is accused of assault, and then his lawyers said that he was the one assaulted. You wouldn't really know this unless there is visual evidence of damage, I suppose. So this is going to be a tough one to figure out. She accused Cook of giving her a concussion, leaving a scar on her face, and taking me through hell. She used mace on him before going to his bedroom, grabbing his gun, and calling a friend for help, leading to the running back attacking her with a broomstick. You would think there would be evidence of that. I'm not saying there isn't, but if you got attacked with a broomstick, it sounds like you'd be pretty banged up. But I have no idea. The lawyer said in his statement that the woman allegedly used a stolen garage door opener to enter his home illegally and then attacked him and a guest there using mace upon entering. Forcing Cook and his guests to remain at the residence at gunpoint for hours. Cook's lawyer alleged that this woman has been attempting to extort money from Cook ever since then. No criminal charges were filed, and police were not contacted. If you were held at gunpoint, you're not calling the cops? I know it's your ex-wife, but this just seems like both sides of the story are so wildly different that I hope we can figure it out pretty quick. So, we'll see. Who knows? Who knows? The Pats were in contact with Odell Beckham, and then he came out and said that he only has 3 teams on his list: the Chiefs, the Packers, and the Saints. The Saints need a receiver after Michael Thomas goes down, but why would he want to go play with Trevor Siemian? I don't know that. Maybe he just wants to be the guy. And I guess they have playoff hopes. The Packers obviously makes sense. The question I had, which I talked about with my friends yesterday, would Aaron Rodgers want him there? I think he would, but you can see it being a total distraction, and the team's already good. They have enough distractions going on. I can't imagine the organization would want him there, but the organization will also want to do whatever Aaron Rodgers wants to do because they saw how important he is to the team. So, I don't know. I'm not sure what to think of this one. The Chiefs make sense because Mecole Hardman can't catch. We talked about that at length on one of the other streams. So many drops. And playing with Mahomes seems like a good idea. I mean, Packers and Chiefs make sense, but the Packers is the standout one, and it all comes down to whether Rodgers wants him there. If Rodgers wants him there, they will get him. If he doesn't want him there, they won't. And to me, he's undeniably better than Marquez Valdes-Scantling, right? He just is. And so, what's not to like about that? Alan Lazard isn't better than Odell Beckham, even though Odell Beckham isn't what Odell Beckham was. He can't take the slant and run it 90 yards to the house, but he's still a threat that's going to command attention that those other guys don't command. I think he can still win one-on-ones, and if Rodgers is throwing him the ball accurately, he's still going to do some damage, even as a decoy. I don't know if he has the speed to take it to the house anymore, but he can still play football. maybe the Browns got better without him, but let's not act like Donovan Peoples. I like Donovan Peoples-Jones, but he's also not as raw talented as Odell Beckham, and they realized that. So, who knows what'll happen here? We'll see. This is insane to me. Nikola Jokic gets suspended for a game, and Markieff Morris gets fined, and Jimmy Butler gets fined somehow. I don't know why that happened. You gotta be kidding me. You gotta be kidding me. Look at the play. We went over it yesterday, but look at the play again. I'll rewind it to the beginning. Markieff comes in. Bang. I mean, elbow, shoulder. He could have cracked his rib here. Markieff Morris is a big dude. And the knee to knee, like, this could have gone bad. And just because it didn't.
Oh, so Morris.
And I'm not excusing Jokic for that hit. That hit could have absolutely. He's a huge guy. Like, this elbow to the back. Look at Morris's neck just. Boom. He could have been very hurt. Definitely. But why aren't they equal punishments? I don't even understand. And if they're not equal, then shouldn't the instigator be the one that's more? Why? And Jokic is making. Let's see. Let's see what his salary is. 28 million. 0.5 million. So let's say 28,500, 000 divided by 82. $350,560 per game. And Morris got fined $50,000. 7 times the amount. Just the fine. And the suspension, which they probably lose that game. You're losing the MVP. I don't get it. I don't get it. I just don't. I don't know. This is weird to me. I guess they want to make an example. Well, whatever. I mean, it's bizarre. Not on the side of this. It should have been equal. What's funny is Marcus and Markieff Morris are like notorious mean streak guys. And then Jokic's brothers, who are also huge, I think. Yeah, those are big dudes when you consider that he's 7 feet tall. I mean, those are big boys. And they threatened the Morrises, too. And they got in on it on Twitter. And then Marcus literally said, he said to him, I'll see you. Yeah, we'll be waiting for you. Is what Marcus Morris said to Jokic. So you know when they play each other. Let's see when that is. Should be able to get to the Clippers through here, yeah? Yeah. Schedule and results. Here we go. When do the Clippers play the Nuggets? Not for a while. Here. Sunday, December 26th, the day after Christmas. The day after Christmas. Wow. That's going to be wild. That is going to be extremely, extremely wild. I imagine that first play, Marcus Morris is going to come out and hit Jokic with a cheap shot. Like, I've been waiting for this. So we'll see what happens, and we'll see if any suspensions get levied there if it happens. Let's talk about this story. I mean, what the heck, man? What the heck? What I want to know is, how does this happen? This is rough. This is, I'm not going to say it's worse than the Henry Ruggs thing, because that's ridiculous. But if this goes a different way, the midfielder has been taken into police custody. She's going to get arrested for this and should. Hired masked men to injure her teammate and stop her from competing for playing time. This is such clear intent. And the Ruggs thing, as horrific as it is, and he should be in prison and will be. He killed somebody, I get it. This is a different level of intent. And not that I'm excusing one or the other, but to do this, to go out, to even think about doing this is something's extremely wrong in your head. And then to actually take action and hire a hitman. I mean, you got to kick her off the team right away. You have to. And if she had died, or it doesn't even, it matters if she dies, but that shouldn't even matter. She should be banned from ever playing again. She should be in prison. Hopefully did they release her? I don't think so. I haven't heard anything else about it throughout the day. I know she's been arrested. She has officially been arrested. But I haven't seen her getting dropped, which is wild. I guess PSG is trying to figure out, because it's both their players. Both of them play on the French team too. This is just an issue in so many ways. And you gotta be a sick individual to even think about this. If you're so worried about this person taking your job, how about the time you spent researching hitmen? Where do you go? Where do you go? I mean, yeah, she's crazy. I agree. This is next level crazy though, because even saying it, you're like, oh, she's crazy. But hiring someone, you can't Google hitmen. I mean, I guess you could, but Bret Hart will come up. I don't know where you go. You got to get to some seedy characters. You got to go to the nastiest back alley bars and just find the guy that's been sitting there for a while with tattoos on his neck. We all know him. This is just nutty. And it's to compete for playing time? What if there was an actual reason? If there was a reason, I don't know. I can't think of one. Infidelity. How about that? How about you killed my sister? I don't know. Then I'll be like, all right, I get it. You still go to jail, but I get it. For playing time on a soccer team? Come on. Come on. That's just sad. I don't like it. Needless to say, this is just... Oy. Oy. It's a big hit. I wonder what's happening in France, how big this story is. If there's any French people watching, definitely jump in the chat. Let us know. Leave a comment on YouTube, because yeesh. Yeesh. And PSG is obviously very good. French Soccer League, I should know. It's League A, right? League 1. Oh, female. Table. How about that? The lingo. It's called the feminine division. Okay. Actually not in first. Look at that. Lyon. But I mean, they're 7-0. So, there's that. Same amount of points, just a worse differential. Who knows who they played. Haven't watched much of the female PSG team. What I do know is, I'm more likely to tune in now. I want to see how this goes. I mean, Jesus. Alright. Let's talk hoops. Let's talk college hoops. My favorite sport. My favorite time of year. It's early in the season, so it's hard to know how much to take of it. We already talked about Kansas and how if you get them as a favorite against a team that shouldn't be in their league, you take that. And I'll tease that. We're going to do Mush Pick of the Day later in the stream. That theory might come back around. Gonna circle this game. Just so you guys know. But, couple notes. UConn basketball is back. They were good last year. They got bounced. James Bouknight got hurt. I don't know why he's not playing for the Hornets yet, but he will be, and he's going to make an impact in the NBA, I promise you. This year, they bring back most of their whole team except for him. This is one of the best front courts in the whole league. Sonogo is a freak. He was awesome last year as a freshman. He's really skilled, strong, big, fast. I like this guy, and if he's polishing the offensive game like this, he beat up a team that was smaller than him, but 3 blocks, 1 steal. He's great. Whaley is a super senior. I believe he comes back on the... Maybe he's just a regular senior. I don't know, but he's been around. And so you got him. You got Andre Jackson, who they list as a guard, but he's a big boy. He's 6'6", 205, and super athletic. You can play him at a forward position if you need to. And Martin, who I love, who was a Rhode Island transfer, where Dan Hurley used to coach, is also big. He's 6'6". If you have 4 players that are 6'6" and above on the court at the same time, which is who they started yesterday, and all these guys are impactful in some kind of way, it's going to be hard to deal with you. The downside to all that is that they won't shoot it that well in all likelihood because they don't have actual guards out there. Like, Martin is a guard. He can handle the ball. I would sooner say he's a small forward. Jackson is probably also a small forward. They play the same exact role. It's just they're both talented, and they're trying to get Jackson going because he's so athletic, and defensively they're a nightmare because you can switch onto everybody. You can overwhelm opponents' guards. You have so many guys that are only 6', 6'1" in these games. If you have a guy that's 6'6" with defensive ability and speed guarding,
is that a good night? Has 9
yeesh.
points.
The problem is they don't have a lot of guards themselves, and guard play rules all of basketball, but especially college basketball. So RJ Cole is another transfer. I want to talk about the transfer portal in a minute too. But he's a senior. This is an old senior-led team with a couple young guys. Akuk is still working his way back from injury, but he was a huge recruit that tore his Achilles. He's now in his 3rd year technically, but hasn't even played a full year yet. Polly, another senior? Yeah. He can really stroke it and shoot it. And you look at this team, Gaffney's been around a little while. This is a team to look out for. I'm a homer. I love the Huskies. I know I'm pushing my Duke points to the side, which is my real bread and butter of the stream. But this UConn team's good. If they can get enough guard play, they're going to go deep. They're going to hold teams down like this to 48. And if they can run and score because they're big and athletic, you got to deal with them in the paint. It's like old school UConn. It's like Jim Calhoun time. It's like I just went to Madison Square Garden for the Knicks game, and there's a big it's just a display. It's not just one picture. It's like a couple different pictures of the 6 overtime game with Syracuse.
Points, guarded by Cole,
and
front court
the
right.
tip-off of the 6 overtime was Jeff Adrian because everyone had fouled out. Box score. Let's see if we can get it quickly. Yeah. Everyone fouled out of this game. Stanley Robinson fouled out. Rest in peace. He died very young. It's very sad. One of the most athletic players I've ever seen. Had a hilarious, I know we're getting off on a tangent, but this is what you get. Hilarious pump fake. He just, instead of this, I know my form is good. And I have a good pump fake. But instead of this, he would just literally hold the ball like this and just lift it above his head. There wasn't even any, like, fake into a shot, any smoothness. He just went every time. It never worked, but it was the meme when I was at UConn. Jeff Adrian plays 56 minutes and doesn't foul out. He went to the league. Jeff Adrian, NBA. You guys got to bear with the UConn basketball talk. This is what you get here. Yeah, he played. He's around. He averaged 7 and 6 for a year. It's pretty cool. Not bad. Hashim Thabit obviously fouled out. AJ Price. Kemba Walker didn't foul out, but he was a youngin' back then. Gavin Edwards, a former forward who one of my best friends in college at a party told him he had beautiful eyes. And Gavin thought it was a little weird and didn't really want him at the party anymore. Say what you want. So yeah, Donnell Beverly. I blocked him in pickup once. So that's cool. Anyway, I missed the Big East, man. But UConn's back in the Big East, and that team is really good. So look out for them. Let's talk about the Duke game. This was the other Champions Classic game at Madison Square Garden. Same way I say that UConn is big and you got to look out for them. I don't know if Duke is. First of all, Kentucky is big. I don't want to start by talking about Kentucky because I'm going to get into a Duke point that is strong. But man, Chimaev had 19 rebounds in this game. I can't figure out if that's because Duke isn't big and tough, because Mark Williams I really think is good, but he just has not shown it at all and got dominated today. Chimaev, 19 boards. They killed on the boards. Absolutely killed. Worse in the first half than the second half, but bad the whole time. It's how Kentucky started getting back in the game. I don't really want to talk about them. I don't think they belong in the same conversation as Duke. I think it's a little weird that it was a 9 versus 10 matchup. I just don't totally get that. Duke looks like a title contender to me, and let me tell you why. If you watched the game, Keels, I said it to one of my buddies that was at the game. Keels reminds me a little of Isaiah Briscoe from Kentucky, if you remember him. He's just so strong. He's just a tank. It looks like, you ever play basketball with a football player, and they're just so hard to deal with because they're just barreling towards the rim? That's how Keels looked. He's huge. He is huge. He's a freshman. He's 6'4", 221. He is Deron Williams size. You know how I know that? Because Deron Williams is fighting Frank Gore. We talked about it on stream not that long ago, but Jesus, that actually got announced. It's really happening. He's way bigger than Frank Gore. I looked it up. Way bigger. Anyway, Keels is literally the size of him in his prime. And this is an 18-year-old kid. He looks like a grown man out there. He can just go to the rim. You can't stop him from getting to the rim. And he looked sound defensively. I don't know if he has a jumper. I don't know if he needs one. I don't know if you need these 4 threes. They went 1 for 13 from 3, by the way. We're going to talk about that in a second, but I'm trying to focus on the good here. I don't know what you do. You can't guard this guy one-on-one. He's going to run kids over. The same way I said the 6'6" guards at UConn can just dominate 6-foot youngins. This kid, you're putting an NBA guard who will compete physically next season in against, I don't know, some of these guys are 5'10", man. This guy's going to run through people, and he started already against Kentucky last night, who has a lot of horses themselves. Jeez. And then Paolo Banchero, first of all, great name. I love it. This dude can stroke it. Super weird that he cramped up 90 different times throughout this game. Also, so did Keels, left the game with cramps at one point, and Wendell Moore. Here's the take. Calipari's a cheater. He keeps cheating and getting better jobs. We know this. He cheated at UMass, he got Memphis. He cheated at Memphis, he gets Kentucky. Stick with me. Did Calipari try to poison Duke? Okay. And then if he gets caught, he gets fired, makes the leap to the NBA, it could be happening. This is where he goes from here. This makes sense. What if the Lakers go on a tailspin, fire their coach, he goes and coaches LeBron and Anthony Davis? Wildcat. I'm just saying, it seemed like they got poisoned. They left the game 100 different times with just cramps. They ended up coming back. Banchero took some nasty post fadeaway ISO plays against like 2 defenders. He kept getting the ball at the elbow and just creating offense in multiple different ways. This team scares me. I don't know if you need anyone else. This reminds me of and Wendell Moore is good, by the way. And if you just need Roach to shoot threes, hopefully he can do it. Mark Williams, I don't know. Joey Baker thought was going to be good. Theo John, a transfer. I like him. I don't know what were his stats like. He seemed like he played a lot. Yeah, he played more than Williams. 5. Yeah, he did more than the box score will tell you. I just think this team looks a lot like the Zion Williamson, RJ Barrett team. A lot more than people will probably give it credit for this early in the year. And it's funny because it's a reverse. Because Zion's powerful downhill attack is more like the guard in this scenario of Keels. And Banchero is more of a perimeter, still wants to attack like RJ, but he's going to be the guy probably taking more jump shots and initiating that way with a little more finesse. So it's not a perfect comparison, but it's interesting that they have the reverse thing, and yet I still want to see them try to run that pick and roll, with which RJ and Zion never really figured out. They kind of just went 1 for 1, and that's what you saw from Duke last night too. Maybe that's how Coach K wants it to be. I don't think he's been the best coach in the league anymore for a couple of years now, and I don't want to disparage his name. I'm a fan, although UConn beat them in the finals a couple times. But I think this team is really good. Keels is like... You watch him play. Watch him for 5 minutes, and you're like, oh, he's just going to do this to everybody. Like, no one's going to be able to handle this dude. And then if Banchero is your second option, and he's the much better scorer and shooter and more crafty, has more moves to him, and if they figure out the pick and roll thing, yeesh. They look good. The fact that they only won this game by 9 is wild. So here's the downside to the team, I guess. They can't really rebound that well, clearly, or Shibwe is unbelievable. It's hard to know which one it is, but it looks like they need to shore their toughness up on the inside a little bit, and they can't really shoot that well. Banchero should shoot pretty well. I don't know if he has deadly three-point range yet. Roach will do better than this, but they need Joey Baker to be a shooter. They don't have a lot of shooting. So 1 for 13 probably isn't the norm, but I do wonder if that could be an Achilles heel. But people said that about the Zion RJ team. So, you know, I can already tell this is going to be a Final Four team in so many brackets, and maybe including my own. Like, this is so obvious. They're not going to lose to bad teams with these two guys. They'll have hiccups because they're a young team, but they have enough older guys and enough star power to just trudge through a couple losses, still be maybe a top seed and be everyone's pick. Because you're going to be like, well, I can't pick Louisville over Duke when they have 2 top 5 NBA picks. I haven't watched Louisville, I'm just saying. Yeah, I love this team. I would already... I mean, you got to worry about Keels at the NBA level developing the jumper. We're not getting there yet. But we're just... You know, Banchero's going to be like a really, really top pick. I want to look. First mock draft to come up. You got it. NBADraft.net. Holmgren, Gonzaga, we'll talk about that in a second. Banchero, third to the Magic, where his career would end. And then he go to the Lakers and win championships. And then he becomes Superman. It all comes back around to Shaquille O'Neal. It just does. Duke is good. Duke is good. I had a couple notes that I probably forgot to mention. It doesn't kill Kentucky to lose this game, obviously. It would help the quest for a 1 seed, though. The win is good. The loss isn't bad. Same way I feel about Michigan State last night losing to Kansas. Kentucky probably should have got crushed in the first half, but they went 6 for 11 from the first half from 3 to stay in it, while Duke was 1 for 9 from 3. So Duke only shot 4 threes in the second half of a relatively close game because they realized they can get Keels going downhill and hit Banchero on the elbow. And then you factor in 6 for 11 for Kentucky in the first half, so they were 1 for 7 from 3 in the second half. So it was 1 for 7 and 0 for 4. 1 for 11 from 3 in the entirety of the second half. Maybe that's why I had that three-pointer take before. I don't know. Duke's second half seemed like a lock of a bet. It was. They impressed me a ton. And Keels is a Mack truck. That's it. That's all I have to say about that. Until next time they play, and I'm amazed again. Or they just blow it, and I mush the whole season. I don't know. Gonzaga's unbelievable. They'll go undefeated. I thought it was funny that during the Duke broadcast, if anyone saw, it was a long day for the announcers, I guess, and Jay Billis, he went on Scott Van Pelt after, and they were doing trivia during the end of the Duke game that was already wrapped up, talking about where they thought Dixie State was, because the fact that Gonzaga schedules Dixie State and Duke schedules Kentucky is just funny. But the Dixie State Trailblazers from Utah, who knew? Who knew? How about him? So I thought it was funny that Jay Billis was complaining about that. You could tell he was saying, I need to go home, without saying, I need to go home. Holmgren was probably the number 1 recruit. He's a big boy. I don't know exactly what size he is. He's 7 feet. He's rail thin. He's a kid. but they're talking about him being the number 1 pick. Gonzaga is amazing. They reloaded. They brought Timmy back. This is another big team. And Mark Few's the best coach in the league. So they'll go undefeated, and we'll see them as a 1 seed, and I'll be shocked by anything else. UCLA is also a 1 seed if everything goes right. They were really good, made a Final Four run last year with Juzang, but then got a really good recruiting class. And they are the opposite. They have guards for days and skill, a lot of skill. So I'd worry about this team. Yeah, 13 for 27 from 3. I know you're facing the Bakersfield Roadrunners. If you had that on your bingo card, mark it down. But Juzang's really, really good. And they already have a Final Four run in them. They're well coached. So keep an eye on them. Ohio State barely escapes. A top team almost goes down. I always like Ohio State to win a game or 2 more than they should in the tournament. Sometimes that is just a game or 2 because they always look ugly. Liddell's still there, though. So I like this team's going to be good. But you can't lose to Akron, and they almost lost to Akron. So keep an eye on them. Virginia loses. I hate Virginia. I hate them. They're not fun. There's nothing fun about watching a Virginia basketball game, and there never has been. They don't score. They had that one team with Ty Jerome that actually scored, and they were awesome. Big freaking deal. Tony Bennett doesn't know how to coach an offensive team at all. I think he's such an overrated coach. Their defense is always great. Big deal. You can't figure out how to score at all, ever? They lose at home to Navy. Beat Army. I love it. I don't know that much about their team. I don't. But I'm going to go ahead and assume that they're a defensive stopping team without enough guard play to dominate offensively. They just never impress me, ever. I can never pick them in the tournament. I always pick them to get upset and then just root against them. It's so annoying. So, that's it. I wanted to touch on the transfer portal a little bit before we wrap up. The transfer portal has become this interesting thing where without the 1 year having to sit out, teams seem to be able to fill holes so much better. Like Duke, for example, knew that they didn't have a ton of tough bigs. And they have Mark Williams, but what if he doesn't take a step forward? So you get Theo John, who has already played. He knows what it takes to be a college athlete. He knows how to balance his schedule. He knows how to be tough in the paint. He's played for a while. He's ready. He knows what it takes to be ready for practice, keep yourself healthy through the game, all that kind of stuff. Watch film, learn all that. They fill this hole perfectly. It's almost like free agency now in college. And you didn't ever used to have that. And if you did, you had to wait a year, so you didn't really know what that team would be like by the time that person plays, and they have to sit out a whole season. Now that you don't with this transfer portal, it is truly free agency for veterans in college basketball. And I wonder if this is just going to make the gap between the good teams and the bad teams bigger, which I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing, but that is interesting. And March Madness will still be March Madness because it's one game elimination for young kids. It doesn't matter. That won't go away. But there might be a better gap between the top 25 and the non-top 25, because if these people that are dominating at lower mid-major conferences or even Division II want to transfer in as a senior and get a quick year competing for a title, or at least filling a role that a team needs on a big stage, it's so much more available than it ever was before. And because of that, I think you have to kind of figure that there aren't going to be as many, at least the blue blood teams with huge weaknesses that much, because they can address it and they should know it going into the year. Now, if a team has a lot of freshmen and just fails, then whatever. But I think it's good. I think it's a good thing because you'll see better teams because their gaps will be filled with seniors. And I love seeing seniors. Everyone hated the one and done thing because all these kids are playing and then they're gone. So now you want to see these upperclassmen play in big games? Well, guess what? With the transfer portal, you get to do that. But it is scary because the gap could become larger and take away some of what we liked about college basketball in general, that it was a little more chaotic and anything could happen on a one-game basis. I still think that'll happen in the tournament. But throughout the year, you might see more teams starting to be super dominant, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. So we'll see what happens. And if they change the rules that you can go get drafted coming into high school, then it'll change the power balance again. But we'll see. I wanted to talk a little bit about college football playoff rankings, but I just think it's so stupid that they have to do this show every week to update the rankings. It's like, just update the rankings. You don't do a show every single week for the top 25. None of this matters until we get to the end. Cincinnati wins every single game they play. They're still not in the top 4. They're not going to be in the top 4 unless all these teams lose. And if Cincinnati loses, they're just eliminated from the whole thing. So they're just making a show of like, oh, are they going to be in? Is Alabama going to be the 1 or the 2 or the 3 or the 4? It doesn't matter. What does this matter? It seems like such a money grab that I don't even want to support it. It's interesting. Like, I like college football. I just want to talk about the games and how the teams are playing and how the rest of their season outlook is. I don't necessarily think it's like, who cares? Because this could all change by the time the conference championships roll around. So congratulations, you're in the top 4 in November. I just don't put that much stock into it. So all that said, we'll probably end up talking about college basketball rankings. So maybe I'm just biased. I don't know, but maybe not. Before we wrap, Mush picks of the day. We're on a streak, folks. We've hit everything this week. And we crushed UFC Saturday. So if you remove Sunday from the situation, which everybody lost on the NFL, it's not just me, we're on a good streak. Let's keep it going. I almost took a single underdog today as the pick, the Cavaliers at home against the Wizards. I didn't. I love the Cavs. We've talked enough about them and how Ricky Rubio ripped my soul out at Madison Square Garden. We understand. I don't want him to rip my soul out again if he plays poorly and can't score, and they also don't have Colin Sexton. I just need to see how that all goes. Their numbers are better with Rubio and Garland together, but without Sexton there, it's just more dudes I haven't heard of playing in the rotation, and I just need to see it happen a couple times before I'm ready to bet them as an underdog against a team that is actually pretty good. The Wizards look pretty good with Kuzma and Caldwell Pope and Beal. So we went in a different direction, took a bunch of favorites that should take care of business. That is my MO, I'll admit it. But if you can find the right ones, it feels very easy. So we took the Suns at home against the Blazers. They're not an overwhelmingly huge favorite. I just think they're way better. The Blazers have struggled so much. Dame hasn't had that outpouring couple games in a row yet. And I think if you're talking about like Dame and CP3 could cancel each other out, Booker, I think, is better than McCollum. And then you're talking about the bigs are better, and the supporting cast is better for the Suns. Not to mention, they just seem to take care of business more often than not, and I just see more questions coming out of this narrative-wise for the Blazers. So it should be a pretty good game, but give me the Suns, parlayed with the Warriors at home against the T-Wolves. This isn't a no-brainer. I'm just going to ride this streak until the wheels fall off. The T-Wolves can scare you sometimes, like we talked about this week when Towns hit the half quarter to go to overtime against the Grizzlies. We bet on the Grizzlies. The Grizzlies won. So maybe I'm double dipping a little too much, but I think the Warriors are so hot right now, and you got to stop Steph. And I don't think D'Angelo Russell's going to be the one to do it, or Josh Okogie, or whoever. And also, if the Timberwolves' 3 best players don't play well, they get smoked. So if one of them has a bad game, which probably won't be Towns, but it could be D'Angelo Russell always. If he doesn't play great, then they're going to get smoked. So give me the Warriors and the Suns, and I'm taking Michigan basketball at home against Buffalo. They're a top 10 team in the country. They're arguably the best team in the country. Who knows? Gonzaga obviously gets that spot. But, you know, anyone at this point could be the best team in the country. Michigan's in the conversation for a 1 seed come tournament time. And you're talking about a home game against Buffalo, and I just can't imagine they're going to blow their whole season right now. They're going to be ready for this game. They're 10-point favorites. It's really just a sweetener on the parlay. It gets up to plus 115. So that's Suns, Warriors, Michigan money line. We're going to go with all 3. We'll recap that tomorrow when we come back. Stream every day around 5 o'clock. New digs with the lights. Hope you enjoyed them. Figure out how to sync that to the music if we can. Hopefully we didn't drop too many frames by plugging the lights in today. So we'll figure that out. But also follow at MikeTheMush Sports on Twitter and Instagram. If you're watching on YouTube, follow on Twitch, MikeTheMush. If you're watching on Twitch, follow on YouTube, MikeTheMush. The subscribes are important. The follows are important. The viewers are important. Trying to grow the thing. We're live every day. I want you to come in the chat. I want to talk about sports every day with everybody. I think it'll be fun. And there's no shortage of things to talk about as we move along every day. So I think tomorrow will be a Thursday night football preview, and we'll start to get the weekend talk going because there's only 2 days left in the week. Thank the Lord. But who knows what's going to happen? I didn't know Masvidal was going to pull out of the fight, and we'd spend 5 minutes up top talking about Chimaev Edwards. But fingers crossed. We'll see. I'll see you there. Peace out.